out there. Let me get on. Okay, I got my guest. Hey, let me make sure I can hear you.
All right, can you hear me?
I can, sir. How are you?
I'm all right. My apologies. Definitely overslept.
I was like, well, we gonna get it right one of these days. I swear it's just all, but I appreciate you. You know, how was your day?
Not bad so far. I ate. Got the itis a little bit. Man, here we are.
Oh, here we are. All right. If I start looking crazy, it's not because my eyes like twitchy. I'm just going back and forth to screens. So I
Hmm.
just want to say welcome. I'm going to go over some, I call them general housekeeping rules.
Okay.
Well, not for you, especially for our guests or our viewers. So, this is a panel that, or actually discussion that I created to create positive and meaningful and necessary dialogue that we desire to produce tangible results. If this is not the purpose of you being here, for all those that are joining in, please excuse yourself now. Please be mindful of the comments that you post. But if you are not, I will advise right now that you be blocked and be blessed. So, Mr. Anthony, would you please introduce yourself to the guests?
Absolutely. I am Anthony Alston. I don't know how much about me that you want to know, but I guess in reference to the subject matter today and in previous discussions, I am a military veteran Army. Was in the National Guard, active duty, and finished up in the reserve here in Atlanta. Well, in Atlanta when I was there. I'm currently in California. So and I've been out, I think I got out of the military in 2011. Um, so, yeah, it's kind of, I guess, the general summation of who I am.
Okay. Okay. So, we're going to start off. So, what was your purpose in joining the military?
My honest purpose was just to buy me some time. I didn't know what I wanted to do after high school. Um, and I think at the time, my father was threatening me with signing me up to the military. But at the point when he was trying to do that, I was already 18. And which I know, the Army is not a daycare center. You can't just sign me up. And, it's something I also have to be a willing participant in. But that was kind of my initial premise as far as joining the military. I do have several family members who were in it. Um, my mother being one of them. My uncle retired from the National Guard, Lieutenant Colonel. My mother didn't retire. She did, I think, just one contract and got out. My father was in ish. I don't really know how that went, but
I was in
yeah,
ish.
yeah. And from what I understand, my grandfather, who I have not had the pleasure to meet, he was in World War II um, in the army as well. So it's kind of a somewhat of a family history type situation, but it's kind of just give me some time after high school so I can kind of figure out what I want to do.
I understand that. The kind of same with me. Like, got out, and when you don't have any kind of direction after high school, you kind of trying to figure it out. Even though I was a good student, I actually had a scholarship and didn't know what to do with it because I had a scholarship for when I was in high school. I was just such a nerd, and I didn't know what to do. So I came to Atlanta first, and then I literally came back within a year. Went down. My brother was Air Force. He had been in almost 10 years at that point. My
Mm,
father was drafted in Vietnam. I had a
mm,
grandfather that was in the I believe Korean War. My uncles have a cousin, a retired colonel. Like I had a lot of military family, so I went in the army actually active duty. So a little bit about myself.
mm.
Um, next question. So, what was your idea or image of the military and what it represented? And when did that change, if it ever changed?
I guess my idea of the military was, I guess it was something to be, I guess, proud of. I never really had any, I think, negative ideas prior to going into the army or going to the military. I didn't really have any negative ideas about the military. Everybody, I had so many family members that were involved or had been in, and I guess to a degree, kind of lived early parts of my life in that way because my mother definitely raised me somewhat like a drill sergeant. By the time I actually got to basic training, I'm like, oh yeah, I've been through a lot of this already before. Like having the full
Right.
hospital corners on my bed at like 3 years old. You know what I mean? Oh, I get to basic. Oh, I've been doing this my whole life. Oh, okay. So, you know what I mean? I guess it was kind of
Right.
a, my ideas was, it was kind of family oriented, take care of each other.
Mhm.
Um, and I would say that it changed to a degree, probably um, after going to Iraq. I didn't really have any false sense of, reality as far as the military was concerned. So probably when I went to Iraq and I kind of saw things in a different light, um, is around when they changed, and that was in 2005. So I got in when I was in 2002. I joined in 2002, and I was in Iraq in 2005. Um, and there were a lot of different things that happened that just caused me to shape my thinking. Nothing to where I ever had felt like the military was a bad thing or a bad place, but you kind of get hit with certain realities once you kind of get in and
Mhm. Yeah.
understand that you truly understand the hurry up and wait after being in
Exactly.
there. So
Exactly. Okay. So, so going to the topic at hand, do you think the majority of men actually respect the woman presence in the military from your experience?
it's difficult to say. I don't know
Mhm.
that the majority of men respect women, I guess, as a whole, in or out the military. So especially on the inside of of the military, it's difficult to really say. I mean, unless you come in from a lower enlisted or junior enlisted position, and it may not even necessarily be that woman that is respected more so than it is the rank. You
Right.
have to
Yeah.
respect the rank and the rank structure. So, you know, if I'm coming in this woman, if I'm coming to, another soldier, and this woman is a captain or, officer, senior enlisted at any point, even if it's a butter bar,
Mhm.
there's a respect that goes along with that rank and not so much the person or that individual. At least not immediately. So um, then I also feel like I've seen instances where a man has been maybe in a higher rank and has the ability, or I've seen where that kind of that rank or that power has been abused
Mhm.
because, you know, relying on the fact that you have to respect the rank, and you
Mhm.
necessarily have to respect the person, and so therefore I can make you do, whatever, so on and so forth. So nah, it's difficult to say if the majority of men are respecting the women more so than they're respecting the rank.
Good observation. I didn't think about it like that. Um, Going along with that, I wanted to read some stats. I'll put them down. And this information comes from the DoD Sexual Assault Prevention and Response Office. So
Mm-hmm.
first, the amount, well, the ratio of men to women in the military, and then this is active duty. This is not including, reserves and National Guard. So women in the military, as of, and this is the fiscal year of 2019, was 228,473. And men active duty in the military was 1,099,127. Just thinking about those numbers, what does that, relating to the subject at hand, what does that jog in your mind? What does that bring up?
I mean, it reinforces the idea that it's a male-dominated industry, society, culture, obviously, because the ratio of, men to women or women to men is disproportionate.
Yeah,
Um, and so, it's kind of a more of us than there are of you. So,
yeah.
it definitely could end up putting many people, many women into some very awkward or precarious situations. So, yeah, that's what it caused me to think about.
And kind of piggybacking on that, some other numbers. So along with that fiscal year of 2019, the amount of projected, or I guess roundabout, cases of sexual assault for
Mm-hmm.
women were 19,159. And um, the men that were, this is an approximate number that were sexually assaulted, 1,000, just going back to your point, like you have, even with the number of men being about 5 times the women, the proportion of men that get, assaulted is significantly less than the proportion of women that get assaulted. Do you want to speak to that a little bit, or kind of self-explanatory?
I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, but it also causes me to be curious about the numbers, and we're looking at those as far as the projected numbers that are reported. Um, and so we don't know how many, like, how do you quantify those where, I'm sure there's so many victims of of sexual assault who just don't come forward because of one reason or another, whether or not they feel like they'll be believed, they'll be heard, there'll be action taken, I guess in their favor in regards to what is taking place. Um, if they don't have whoever I guess the assailant is, may have friends in high places or what have you, and things that get swept under the rug. So, people may not necessarily say anything. So I guess, um, I would say, as you stated, like it is pretty self-explanatory, but it's also, I guess, just caused me to think a little bit deeper on it as um, just in the consideration of maybe things that I've seen happen or I know of to have happened, and it's just it to a degree comes along with the territory, if you will.
Mm. And kind of just what you said, kind of piggybacking off of that as well. So, what or what have you heard or personally witnessed or experienced, and how did you deal with that situation?
In regards to, I guess, the sexual assault.
Yeah, like if you've heard or seen, or because I guess this is my question. Just like I said, we want to really get. I don't want it to be so structured. Really get into it, because we don't, as women, some of us don't hear what you hear, because we're not in the barracks with y'all. We're not on those sidebar conversations. So for a man that is not assaulting, for a man that's not out there doing or preying on other women, what are you hearing and seeing, and how do you I guess how you respond to that, for you being not that predatory type of man?
Um, well, I will say that it's not necessarily so overt, the conversations, those that are engaging in that predatory behavior or just in those sexual, they're not really necessarily walking around saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to." I feel like raping tonight, you know what I mean, or I feel
Of
like
course.
violating somebody's rights or something like, or somebody's space. I think what it ends up coming into play is I guess the conditioning of maybe it's an aftermath. Oh yeah, man. Well, saying how intoxicated or inebriated, this woman was, and kind of taking advantage of their situation, or there being some blurred lines or kind of mixed signals, and there being a situation where he felt like he needed to take, I guess, take charge and be
Mhm.
assertive and aggressive, and those end up being at times mixed signals, but also just in environments or in situations that they're not necessarily um, maturely equipped to handle. Uh, as far as consent is concerned, that's not necessarily a thing that is widely talked about or preached. I guess in the military, but I mean, it wasn't necessarily widely talked about prior to me even getting into the military. There still was a type of male dominated society, I guess even more white male dominated society. And here we are kind of catching the roll off and, I guess acting in similar fashions to people that have, I guess, essentially oppressed us, or people that we know, or that, our predecessors that have had to do the same, deal with some of the same issues of a lot of these sexual assaults being byproducts of entitlement. So I felt like, oh nah, she owed me. I took her out to dinner. Yeah, nah, yeah, she definitely was gonna give it up, that night or whatever the case may be. And so those conversations end up being normalized, or
Mhm.
the type of energy is just kind of normalized. Oh, this is kind of a quid pro quo. I did this for you. Now now you owe me. You know what I mean? Or I didn't do this. I bought you this, so now you gotta, thank me, pay me back in kind, you know what I mean, or something to that degree. So I mean, I guess some of those conversations I've heard, but it's also been situations where it could have that I've been in, to where it could have been, turned out to be very bad if I didn't, I guess, act with some sort of common sense or just sense, period. You know what I mean? 'Cause, Um, a
Yeah.
couple of those things happen in the country where I'm in the hooch of, a female soldier that I was invited, it's late in whatever time in the morning. And without there being, I guess, any explicit conversation as to what the expectation of our interaction was going to be, there were I guess, the telltale signs that there was at least an idea of some sort of physical engagement.
Mhm.
Well, then, after being there and talking for a little bit, and after advances, or after I attempted to make advances and they ended up being kind of stopped, well then yeah, I just kind of withdrew all of my advances because I'm like, I'm definitely one on very large on consent. And um,
Mhm.
if now the consent has been taken away or been removed, which you have every right to do, well now I have to adjust, how it is, my behavior, my thinking, my energy, all of the above, so that, for one, I'm not trying to go to prison for no sexual assault case. I don't want to be a sex offender. I don't. But I also, even more so than that, like I don't want to violate anybody. I don't want to be
Right, right,
violated.
right.
So I also don't want to violate you. I'm like, this is your decision, your body, your choice. All of these other things that have kind of become uh, almost desensitized by how many people have just picked up these sayings. You know what I mean? And without
Mhm.
carrying on the meaning or the energy behind it. But it's like, no, this is your choice. But it is also,
Yeah.
my choice to do whatever, or to not do. Um,
Yeah.
so there are a number. I didn't really go into too many specifics, but I mean, it's just the culture of the military is definitely around, fighting, drinking, and sex.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
kind of like you go to war, you work, you train, you do all of these things, and now once we're out of training, we're out of briefings, we're gonna go drink and screw. um,
To sum it up.
yeah.
So, what was the question I was going to follow? Let me say, because it was something that you said. I don't want to pass it up. You say almost like an obligation. So, okay, that's where I wanted to go with this. Because they're very, I mean, under the umbrella of sexual assault, you
Mm,
have, I think, categories, and I think we need to specify them. You got what some men call the blurred line, like those you both drunk, thought it was consensual. I've heard those. And I think a lot of people kind of pay attention to those and not um, like I said, going back to the predatorial or the social or psychopathic mindset. So okay, let me go to one story I heard. So I had a woman that told me that she woke up and to somebody basically tearing off her clothes and violating her. There is
mm,
no gray line there. There's
right.
none at all. There's the person she thought she locked her door to the extent that she thought her roommate might have let him in or did he break in. She was just surprised by somebody in her room violating her and just being woken up to that. And then with the case of what we were talking about as far as Vanessa, I guess we don't know her whole story, but we know that she was either sexually harassed, sexually assaulted, and she um, ends up literally being chopped up and buried and taken off base in a gun bag and buried and put cement on. Those cases are extreme, but still with those cases being extreme, they're not uncommon because I hear it way too
Right.
much. So how do you, as a man, I don't even know how to get into this conversation because there's so many layers. Um, like, I guess um, from a man's standpoint, have you sensed these? Because I feel like sometimes you can pick up somebody ain't right. And how are people dealing with that situation in the male corner of this? Like, I know when I've seen crazy females, and I know how to pick up on that as a female. But what are you seeing? And I guess keep on trying to get into males' thought pattern because we don't think alike as male and female. And I
Right.
think that we need to communicate more so we can try to mitigate some of these issues or keep each other out of issues and be true battles. Like we spoke yesterday and I was talking about some women might not even talk to men because the very person that violated them was a person that's supposed to be they boy, they battle. We cool like that. But that's the very person that violated them. So I'm still trying to, I guess, get into a psyche of a man that is normal and try to see what he is seeing and what is that environment looking like when you're talking to other guys and they may be saying something and you're like, that don't sound right. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
So I mean, there's so many, let's start there, but there's so much I want to talk about and I just don't know how to get this all out in this little bit of time. So
right.
let's start there.
Um, so as far as well, I have to say this. I feel like who you associate yourself with says a lot about you.
Mhm.
I can't say that anytime that I've been, in a training environment or just in a garrison environment, that I've had those people that I call friends who exhibited that behavior outwardly. I haven't heard anything,
Right.
I guess, beyond a certain point, like later on finding out, oh, this person did this to you. I never would have thought. So it hasn't been those types of things. But there have been
Mm.
situations, probably much more in training environments, such as like when we spoke last night, thinking about AIT. There were a couple guys who had just real off energy. They were socially awkward, but you know come into the military, you kind of get a little bit of notoriety. The playing field is leveled a little bit more, and so you kind of are able to reinvent yourself. But your energy doesn't really it doesn't really lie. So there have been conversations I've had with female soldiers about watching out for this particular. Yeah, some don't seem right about this dude. He's a little too. He seems like he'll be obsessive. Like,
Mm,
don't flirt or play around with this guy because he looked like he might take it a little bit more seriously. You think it's cute because he
mm,
got a crush on you or whatever, and he's the awkward guy. But no, he looks like
mm.
he might not be a Ratu type. So yeah, don't play with this dude like that.
Right.
Like he's got a screen before before you can have screensavers on your phone, just on with an iPhone or whatever. And like he's got a picture of you in his phone. How did he get it? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like he's looking at you. So
Right.
um it's like nah. So I mean, it's certain things like that, or things that we may have heard about other people from other companies, and we might see them out. Nah, don't deal with that dude. You know what I mean? Or hearing from the women themselves. Mm-mm, don't. If you see him over here, make sure she stay away from him or whatever. Like I've been, I guess, called on to assist in. I don't know if it was potentially a level of assault. I don't know. I can't say that it was a sexual assault, but it was a black female soldier, and I remember being called to kind of meet or try to kind of mitigate the ass whooping. Whatever the guy was wouldn't let her leave. Uh, It was speculated he wasn't letting her leave the hotel room. She going on her
Mhm.
own accord. Whatever was happening, they got into some arguments. I got a phone call, or I didn't get a phone call. One of my battles got a phone call, and we were together. We need to go. So it was about five, six of us kind of walk from one hotel room down the street to the hotel room where this young lady was, and was kind of able to get her out of that situation. Because the guy that she was with, he's mad. He's probably like 6'4", 6'5". She's like 5'5", and
Yeah.
it's kind of a not really feeling safe. Um,
Mhm.
and before then, me knowing this guy, I didn't have an issue with him. But I couldn't say that we were friends. I mean, I saw him and he was cool. Okay, we're in the same, same. We're all in 369. You know what I mean? I'm in Echo, you in Delta. All right, cool, whatever.
Mm.
And but now I see you this. I'm like, wait a minute, now you seem like you on the verge of false imprisonment, kidnapping. Like, what are you doing? And then him looking at me because he's really about to be dealt with in an unpleasant way. He's looking at me, hey Alston.
Right.
He was like, yo, I can't. I'm not here to save you because if you did to this woman what she's saying you did, no, you. I guess I was looked at as the peacemaker, but we got her out of there. I don't know what happened to him after that. I mean, he still was alive, but I don't know how comfortable his next couple of weeks were after I walked away. But so in a couple of
Right.
situations, like I said, like that, to where um it's difficult to maneuver through, and just thinking about how you put yourself, how you are in situations where you can have these, I guess, mishappenings go on. And thinking about moving into the military environment, these are conversations that are unlike things that happen in college or any other facet of life, where you got a bunch
Mhm.
of kids turn to legal adults without any proper conditioning. They're bringing into the military, whatever social ideas that they picked up prior to even signing up. Like
Yeah.
you got all of this, your interaction, your friendships, and your family history and things of that nature. You're bringing all of that with you, and then the military is teaching you how to be like a warrior, a
Mm.
weapon, not how to be
Exactly.
an upstanding human being. They give you duty out of country. You get your Army core values or your core values,
Yeah.
and how to serve your country as a whole, how to be a
Right.
patriot, how to lay down your life. But that's nothing how to do with your individual character traits, and how to not be somebody who rapes, how to not be somebody who feels entitled to a woman's body because you are a man, or otherwise, or how not to have to
Right.
feel like as a woman that maybe you got to assimilate and adopt the cultural ideas that exist within the military in order to feel like you can take you're taking your power back, or feeling like you can survive in this particular environment. So um,
That's good. There's something you said. I want to brings me to a question. Since the average age of entry into the military is between like 18 and 19, do you think the branches of the military soldiers, especially the young ones, on how to interact with the opposite sex and to give them some life skills training?
I think so. I feel like
Mhm.
um, when that, I feel like they should be there to assist or to further whatever has been taught. But I think again, the things that are happening military wise inside the military or not are a byproduct of where we are in social conditioning. Anyway, we don't know how to interact with the opposite sex. You go to me having been in church or grown up in church,
Right.
it was a lot of division. Boys on this side, girls on this side. School, you go to an eighth grade dance. Oh, the boys over here and the girls over here. And
Right.
everybody's kind of seemingly afraid to have these open and honest discussions,
Right.
uh, about sex, gender, all these other gender roles, and all these other things. So you go in with whatever familial ideas, familial or whatever your friendships, the things that you kind of picked up beforehand, whether they be right or wrong, and then you go into the military where you now have this autonomy to be a free thinking adult, and you don't really know how to think and make adult
Right.
decisions. So
Exactly.
you're still thinking with a very juvenile mind more often than not. Not every 18, 19-year old is you know um, I guess immature, but probably more often than not you're going to find a uh, the maturity level of a 19-year-old is not going to be greater than that of a 25, 28, I'll say 28, 30-year old.
You just
So
have the experience. It's not, you can be mature and still naive, you
right,
know?
I mean,
So it's what you're saying is so true. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but go ahead.
no, you're fine. So I mean, I think that there could be something that will help. I should be a continuation. I don't know if it's the military's responsibility to teach you how to be to not be a raper. I mean, that's something that you should be taught and in
Right.
like elementary. This is not right. Don't rape. Is
Right.
raping is wrong. What I mean, don't consent is everything. You don't like anybody touching you in places that you don't want them to touch you. And I don't even know how often that's taught for smaller children. It's like I remember being younger, and it's like maybe not personally, but it's like, oh no, this person shouldn't touch you in your no places,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
having that kind of. So if you start that at a very young age, what happens as far as the continuation? Well, the narrative changes. Oh, boys will be boys, girls will be girls, and starting to get you to adapt to the cultural beliefs that this is just how things are, as opposed to waiting until an assault happens and now we want to fight for change. Well, what happened? What's the gap? And now we look at, I feel like we look at a lot of these entities to now pick up the slack or to undo what has already been done, the level of condition that's been done
Mhm.
for the past 19 to 20 years. And then we get in here into the military. Like I was saying to you last night, the function of the military is a weapon, is
Mhm.
wartime. This is a defense for our national security, and if necessary, and at other times we go across the world in order to defend ourselves, and also defend other countries who may not be necessarily able to defend themselves against tyranny and terror and many things of that nature.
Yeah.
Well, that's the focus. That's where all the money is going to. You thinking about how much was the budget for the military budget every year? How many billions, or is it a couple trillion or something?
The DoD budget, I believe, is over 600 billion, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah. So
If I'm not mistaken.
600 billion,
Right.
a little bit of money for some actual for some training, or I don't know, hip pocket, no rape training. But we're gonna teach you how not to rape. Uh, she said no, go home. She said no, or even he said no. Because I mean, it's minutes in those positions again that also do not say
Yeah.
anything. I've definitely been uh, catcalled or been in my class A's, and oh, you got a nice ass, and I'm like, this is coming from the female soldiers
Yeah.
doing the same. Or they walk by and want to slap me on my butt, you know what I mean, or whatever the case may be. And
Yeah.
so, as uncomfortable as it is, who is if I were to say that I was violated, who's gonna believe me? I'm gonna get laughed at. You know what I mean?
That's true. That is so
So we
true.
don't take, and I'm sure I'm not making it, I guess, the comparison that is happening, I guess, at a rate or the same level of pressures are on men that are on women. But I'm just pointing out the fact that just the system that is in place as far as the equal opportunity, I don't know, it's not so equal.
Yeah.
Um, but we know that. And um, I feel like the military is an old dinosaur that keep getting up yearly upgrades. And the how to be a person is not necessarily one of the upgrades, the features that they decide to upgrade. We can make you a better soldier,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
That,
you know, what we need is first.
yeah. I agree.
You're probably gonna have to ask that again because I didn't hear anything. Hello, are you there?
and stuff down. So with that being said, like what type of recommendations you or hold on, what was the question? Jess, can you hear me? Did it go all
Yes,
the
I
way
can hear you
out?
now.
I see
I
you.
hear
Do you
you.
see me? Oh, hello? Can you hear me?
Okay, is it
Did I mute?
did it catch
Okay,
up?
awesome.
Are we good now?
Okay, I thought it went out because my connection's been going in and out. I would say, what type of recommend? What? I can hear you. Can you hear me? Yes, no? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? I don't know. I don't know what to do. Let's see. Uh, let's try to change over to. Hello? Can you hear me? No?
Um,
It went totally out. Let me, I don't know. Can you hear me? Let's see. Maybe I can. I don't know. I'm gonna. I don't know. Can you hear me now? It totally went out. Oh, I don't know what to do now. I want to get off, but I don't leave meeting. I'm going to, if you can you hear me? I'm going to get off and then go back on. Sign in late.
Well, we live. I think we live. I'm here. There we go. Let's see. Can you hear me
Hello?
now?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yay. Spirit fingers.
You back in business. All right.
All right. Okay. Where was I at? So I think I was on, you kind of spoke to, but I want you to, if you had any recommendations on how to mitigate or to issues, what would they be?
Um, I feel like one of the things um, that can be done and should be done is some real situational awareness. We get talk that as far as wartime or fighting and things of that nature, but I think that once we make that correlation of situational awareness with your daily life, with everything that you're doing, and with who you go out with, who you hang out with, who your battles are, who what I mean. Like we see what I feel like I've seen once I left high school and went to the military is a lot of the same high school behaviors as far as how cliquish people are, who's talking about this person, who is the one that's fast, and who was giving it up to everybody, who all of these different things. It just copy pasted from whatever high school across the US of A. Now we're over here in inside of the military, and now we got these new friends. It's almost on some like Lord of the Flies type stuff, what it ends up being.
Yeah.
So um I think that just like don't rape your fellow soldier, don't rape your battle buddy, don't rape, period. But it's you
Right.
want to serve this country, you want to do the honor country. Well, it should be an honor to not rape your fellow soldier or anybody. It should be an honor to serve your country in this regard, that you go on front lines in the battlefield and supposed to protect your battle buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Protect them here in the States, protect them
Exactly.
here in this garrison environment, protect
Yeah.
them here in this at the level that you can protect at the junior enlisted, at
Yeah.
the but I feel like that would be for the newer soldiers coming in. With the issues that I feel like we have, there needs to be a much more rigorous UCMJ investigations or actions or whatever, what have you. And I don't really know. I've not been involved in any type of like an investigation um, to where I had to go for the UCMJ. I think the most I had was like a company grade Article 15. And
Yeah.
so and that was for being late. That wasn't for anything crazy. um, but I feel like
Okay.
those things, again, the situational awareness to where we do turn to a lot of, as far as our relief and learning, turn into a lot of alcohol. Then there are people who are turning to drugs still. And um, I was too scared of the random piss test. I wasn't trying to get popped and get no extra duty and all that other type of stuff for anything. So, um, but you have all of these, you have people that are coming with these vices and finding ways to satiate these or to try to satiate these desires. And then you're ending up in a situation where, now you're waking up and you're being violated. And that's not your fault, really, in any shape, form, or fashion. But
Yeah.
there is a level of accountability that can be taken as far as eliminating as much as you can being in the positions to where you can you end up being violated. There are obviously times when it's absolutely unavoidable. There's nothing you can do. The attacker or the assailant is stronger, bigger, or they're blackmailing you, or just a various number of or numerous amount of scenarios that can be played out to where um, you can't necessarily do anything about it. But you also shouldn't have to feel like, I mean, it's unfortunate that we're in a time or have been in times to where you got to feel like you got to walk around and try to figure out how not to get raped. But I guess it's almost like walking around and in the desert with some hot sauce on your body and try to figure out how not to get Like, how can I'm in here. It's the environment. And so until we figure out how to change the environment, you also got to figure out how to fortify yourself and
Yeah.
just make some different decisions. I'm not going to say smart or anything like this. End up making some different decisions, trusting your intuition. Something don't feel right, you got to get out of there. It don't look
Exactly.
right, you got to get out of there. Not associating with people to where you're hearing. I mean, again, all of the high school behavior end up transferring right over into it's just a copy paste situation because it was the same thing if you go to college. The same
Yeah.
kind of conversation, the same types of things. Certain people have access to the resources to get them out of the jams once they've made their mistake.
Mhm.
And oh, we were just having fun, and I took it too far, but my nepotism is playing, helping me get out of this and save my career and save my life and all that. Meanwhile, the person who's been victimized is now I got to continue to see you, and now you're being told to get over it. You know what I mean? So um, I don't know what kind of program it would need to be in place or how they would need to implement things as far as the military is concerned, because that's a lot of work to. I feel like that's a lot of work to do on top of training you how to be a weapon, training you how to be a soldier. Again, the primary function of the military, at least from what I understand it, is to be a weapon.
Mhm.
It's for defense. It's for. I mean, it's why you have all these defense contracts and things like that. That we want to protect our nation. We want to have an entity in place to where if there's somebody trying to attack us, we will defend, or we will attack as the commander in chief sees fit. So,
Mhm.
um, how do you how do you I don't know, how do you train a blunt object not to be so blunt?
I'm trying to, I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
Is that, is the, is it that polar though? Could, could this, because you can have, as you say, a weapon with morality. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
there, I don't see why they has to be, why does it have to be so dichotomous? Like, why does it have to be on so just different ends of the spectrum? Like, in my mind, okay, I guess I'm going back to, I guess, my definition of patriotism. You like it, even that can go into your own home. I can be like all my family. I think we have the same type of personality. We can be the sweetest people until you
Mm,
touch our family. I think that's just in almost any family. And
yeah.
then you just gonna get something else. This little light skin is gonna turn into a spider monkey that will slit your throat. It's gonna go something different. It's gonna go a different way. It's not gonna be the same. But in that, I don't have to be violating people in the process of that. I can protect and defend, still be have morals and love and protect along the way. I don't see why there has to be, it has to be so polar. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily has to be. I feel like the reason it is because of it's been created out of the same, I guess from or out of the same people who created the system, the civilian system that we operate in
Yeah.
as it stands. So I don't think it has to be, or it doesn't have to always be that mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
But this is the environment that we're currently in, and we're talking about anything we do now is essentially it's going to be baby steps.
Yeah.
We've been doing baby steps. We just got, I think it was like 2005, 2006, where they just got rid of don't ask, don't tell.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so, um, or even recently, I think 2018, 2019, you know, things that are still first that are happening. Um, I think the first woman that went through like I think the Navy SEAL qualifiers. There's not ever been current
Yeah.
or previous ever been a woman Navy SEAL. Um, and whatever it is, I think that she was able to take that qualifier, and that's as far as it's gone as I know. But they're still looking at things or trying to understand why women aren't being let into, different spaces or different ranks or different whatever the case is. Like this has been an ongoing and very long tough fight that uh we got a couple rounds in, but we may still got a few rounds to go.
Yeah.
Um because of, I think the difficulty is in the system in and of itself, it is very white male dominated. It was white male created, orchestrated, maintained. Um, Thinking about it not being that long ago from whenever the Civil War was, when slaves were allowed to fight or even required to fight in a war, as and being, I guess, seen as people in that regard. Oh, I can lay my life out on the line, but you can't give me these rights. And
Right.
we're still fighting, even those battles.
Yeah. Yeah.
And um, and so here we are again. I think it's a outwardly the societal thing that's taking place, because my mother was in. I told you last night that I was born in Fort Hood, which is why these things kind of my ears kind of perked up. Anything Killeen, Texas, Fort Hood, my ears kind of like, oh, what's going on there? Okay. My mother was stationed there. My mother's told me several different stories about I want not OICs, but whatever section sergeant or somebody like that, whatever, somebody in the higher rank, one of the higher ups, making uh, numerous advances, even with him being married, and there's protocol as far as going into a female barracks as a
Mhm.
male, and him not adhering to that protocol, walking in, and she might have been in her underwear, that in whatever her undershirt is, and he's just kind of walking into the barracks or walking into the room by himself at that, and also making these advances, trying to utilize his power or his rank as a way to coerce my mother, how many other female soldiers that he tried to use the same tactics on.
Mhm.
And but where does that come from? Oh, I'm in a position of power and I have your career, or I can at least present the illusion that I can either make or break your military career. And but that's not a function that began in the military. That should happen. That happened outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're carrying these ideas. Okay, your focus is on protecting the country, but that still doesn't make you a good person. That makes
Mhm.
you a good warrior, a good fighter, what I mean, a good strategist, uh, war game player. But your character as a whole is trash.
True. That's so true.
And the shit rolls downhill. You think about Bill Gates. He is, one of the most brilliant minds. But I'm sure he as a person, if you want to get on to all of this, I'll
Mhm.
just the way that he thinks and maneuvers, there are people that are in positions of power that are still replicating these same ideas as the generations continue to go on. So here we are now into this military system where we're still replicating these same ideas, but now you've got somewhat of a backup, because I won't say it's as great as the blue wall of silence when
Mhm.
there's that injustice going on, but there is, depending on who you're connected with,
Right.
um, that wall of that covering that you got, and what and how far something goes up the chain, who's actually looking at it, documenting certain things in a particular way, the way you write the report, so that
Mhm.
it looks one way, and you're leaving a lot of information out that's vital to I guess decision making, or vital to perspective on how this case is presented. But if you don't have those people to back you, if you don't have those, it's also another politics game.
Mhm.
So, what I mean? Like, yeah, Donald Trump might have been talking about grabbing women by the pussy, but it's people in the military who've been doing it. And
Yeah.
with no real repercussion. So
Yeah. We talked about this last week because it's kind of analogous to the Vanessa case. You said when you were deployed, it was a case that literally hit me in the chest when I first heard about it. So when you said it, I kind of knew exactly what case you were talking about. And it was was it Lavina Johnson, and you were saying you were on that same base as that young lady?
Yeah, so the story broke. I remember, I don't remember what morning it was, or I remember it was a morning going to the DFAC. Um, and we going to the DFAC, but on the way to the DFAC, I don't remember who broke the news or who told us, but we started hearing like some other friends, yo, did you hear about this? Did you hear about this or whatever? So we learned that there was a female soldier that was killed, um, or at least was found. And then as the day went
Mhm.
by, more details came out. Um, and it was found, I think, in a tent not far from the DFAC that we were going to eat at. We were like DFAC 4, and it might have been maybe half a football within maybe half a football field's length
Mhm.
distance from the DFAC. So it's pretty close. I mean, it's on the base was pretty large, but in proximity to where where we went to go eat, I mean, it's pretty close. So we
Yeah.
heard about it, it's like, wait, what? So all of these things and the energy of the entire base was just kind of at a lull. Like it was a shock. Well, I came home, I came back to the States for my R&R, for my 2-week R&R. And I remember hearing um, the details about the case. And um, it didn't match up to what we were being told.
Mhm.
Or not the first details or the first, portions of the story that came out while I was over there. So from the news, the perspective that I got was it was a suicide, and um, there was no foul play. There might have been questions about it, but they never really discussed those things and what happened. But being on the ground and there the day that it happened, it's like, well, you're looking at all these different factors. Oh, well, if they're saying we knew that she was shot. They didn't say that she shot herself in the head, but you're thinking about this young lady was maybe 5'4". She, short, uh, and what she carried was an M16.
Mhm.
You're not shooting yourself in the back of the head with an M16. I may be logistically, my arms are long, so if I try to do it, I'm a little bit more feasible. She don't have that wingspan. Like it doesn't make any sense. And even if she did shoot herself in the head, she didn't beat herself up. She didn't beat her, her face to a pulp. She didn't all of these other things. And I don't remember if she was actually sexually assaulted or not, but I do remember it was supposed to have been like 2 or 3 different male soldiers in there that were with her, last seen with her going into this tent. And they leave and she's gone.
Yeah.
And not only are just her being, a woman, but her also being a black woman and feeling in that space that there's no advocacy for, us.
Yeah.
I guess as black people, they have EO opportunity or the EO complaints, the equal opportunity complaints. But, in the situations like, how do you prove somebody's intent? How do you prove what somebody's tone is? Or like, I mean, I was called by a white first sergeant called boy. At this point, I'm 20, 21 years old. Now I'm younger than him. Obviously, he would have been considered, he's elder than me. But in regards to what we're doing, we're both getting ready to be deployed to go lay our life down or put our lives on the line for the freedom of this country that we're serving. So all of these things to where we're equal, but in this, you still feel the need to call me a boy
Mhm.
with dip all in your cheek, you spit, do all this other extra stuff, you know what I mean? Like a good old boy.
Right.
And
Right.
I felt it, you know what I mean? I felt this. So, but who can I tell? I can just
Right.
go to EO. Um, and I can go to, I guess, to try to make a, DOJ or whatever. But what am I like? Okay, how do you prove it? You got any witnesses? Are they going to, if I have witnesses, are they going to back me up or they going to back him up? And
Mhm.
kind of the same thing. It's like, well, you got these 3 white men and this one black woman and her being violated and their stories not matching up and all that, but there's still no protection for her as a woman. There's no protection for her as a black woman. And then what do I do as a black man at this point? What do I do? Because I don't even know where to go or how to. She's gone, but how can I what avenues are there for me to either further protect any other black soldiers or any female soldiers, but black female soldiers, and then even further protect myself. But the system is not necessarily, wasn't really set up. And granted, my time in Iraq, it was 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what has changed, if anything, in the
Yeah.
last 15 years.
Right.
Hopefully there's been some progress. Hopefully there's been, more things in place, but I don't imagine the culture has changed very much, because it is very testosterone driven. And I feel like if we look at anything historically, it's like to the victor go the spoils. So what are the spoils? It's generally, whatever the riches, gold, whatever jewelry it is, the booze, the nice feast, and all the women that goes along. You are now a part of the spoils or the prizes that you win for being, alpha, for being with the elite warrior who survived and made it back. Now you deserve all of the, sexual um,
Wow.
action that you want.
I didn't think of it that way, but that's wow. Wow. Yeah.
And I don't
Wow.
think that hasn't gone anywhere. You go to
Yeah.
war, you come back, I've done all this. I deserve, like, you come back with an intent, like, I deserve this. Um, to the victor go to spoils. I made it back. Whatever, your chest puffed out. You want to show how much. I mean, you think about how many bar fights soldiers have gotten into,
Mm-hmm.
drunk, all
Yeah.
of those things. Like, for what? Because either they have gone and been exerting this energy, or they've been training for something that just never occurs. So you've
Mm-hmm.
got nowhere to expend this energy. You don't go to war. You don't fire, a shot in the country. You don't do anything. You've been waiting, training to kill, shoot to kill, airborne.
Yeah.
Warriors lead the way. Like,
Yeah. There you go.
and they don't get to do it. You don't get to do any of that.
Yeah.
And you've been programmed, and then you get kind of tossed back out here, and it's like, okay, now go back to being civilian.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Um, yeah, I feel like I definitely went on the tangent, but
No,
my bad.
me, it's good information. It's like some stuff you just don't think in that way, but that is so true. Wow. I'm going to see if there's any questions before I go into my last few questions online, because I need to, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah. So,
Hold on, I want to, before I get, so going back to the beginning, kind of as far as the beginning of this process, do you think psychological evaluations during the MEPS process would help a little bit?
um, I think that it would only help if the evaluators are also evaluated.
Exactly. No, I get that. I get that.
Because what is this test coming from? What are
Yeah.
you're putting me against a system that you've already created and you've curated to, as long as these things happen, then this person will pass.
Mm,
And what you deem to be okay based on your societal expectations may not actually be good for the whole. This is what you're used to based on your conditions and your reality, but everybody's reality isn't that, clearly. Otherwise we
so,
wouldn't have, these different perspectives. So I think it could help, but I also think it's like, who is proctoring these exams, who is coming up with the criteria to actually say whether or not you're psychologically fit or unfit.
yeah. Kind of goes back to what I was talking with the ladies. We were talking about just even the third party when it comes to advocacy and um, what am I trying to say? I can't think of what I'm trying to say. Due process.
Mm.
So I guess it can be with the same thing with this. If you get a third party civilian organization, not connected to the DoD in a sense, that is evaluating. Do you think that
Mhm.
will be better?
I think it has a potential to be better, as long as it's not, privately owned by one
Mhm.
of these other same situations who are, you're funding your own interest. You got these different shell companies or whatever. And I don't want to come off as a conspiracy theorist. I just feel like in these things, when we start talking about psychological evaluations, I don't know what the answer is to making it sort of airtight, but I feel like there needs to be something for whomever. And like, I'm just skeptical in a lot of ways because of the way a lot of these standardized tests have been created. It's been created on a system, that's just been not balanced
Mhm.
across the board. When you're thinking about, level IQ, well, who gets to, qualify this test?
Yeah.
How is this test qualified? And so I think about that with the psychological evaluation, because the same thing has come up as far as, or similar ideas have come up as far as, the social injustice, police brutality, things of that nature, saying that these officers need some psychological evaluations. Well, the ones that's evaluating them are already products of the system that those officers are already in.
Mhm.
So you're basing that your barometer is set, um, not on a level playing field. You know
Right.
what I mean? So what's the benchmark? Oh, you feel like you agree with what this
Right.
person did.
Right.
So if you're the proctor of this test, then you don't see anything wrong. Well, then this whole thing needs to be done away with, and
Mhm.
come up with an actual system that is much more equitable across the board. And I don't know very much about, like a psychological test. I don't know about, how you get into certain things. I mean, I've taken my fair share of social media quizzes on like, oh, are you this? Are you green or orange? Are you, what I mean? Like, I think those same things about those. It's like, okay, you asked me the same question in 6 different formats to see if
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the same answer. So what is different about, that test? I mean, not unlike the ASVAB. You take that, it's just like, well, what? You just asked me this question like 3 questions ago.
Right.
Why are we? Um, so yeah, it's like, what is the standard what's the standard? What's the barometer on the psychological evaluation? Yes, I absolutely believe that there should be one before you go in. But the issue before you go in is that a lot of those things are learned after you enter the process, into the arena.
Yeah. That's true. Because you kind of conform to your environment. Well, a lot of
Right.
impressionable people do. Um, I think because you kind of said the same thing. We come from the same background as far as family in the military. I feel like I was taught mentally how to be strong throughout my training process because I knew what to expect. And then I
Mm,
had a really firm foundation, you know what I'm saying? So I I didn't get caught up in a lot of foolishness that some people would, and I'm not even talking about on, sexual assault that has nothing to do with just you could get in some foolishness just in
yeah.
general. You know what I'm saying? So I think I had that first of all a good moral compass coming from my family, and then um, just psychologically sound and having a good foundation on what to expect because it is a mental breakdown when you're going through training. They want to mentally break you down.
Right. Absolutely.
So but if you know kind of what you're going into, and going back to what I was saying, actually, so you go in, and if you're not in have a firm foundation, you could assimilate to what that culture is. So
Yeah.
going back to what you said, it is what you come in with, kind of. And but I think a lot of this, as we said before, you get so much beaten into you at the beginning. And if we do some type of life skills, how to interact with the soldiers of opposite sex at the beginning, but also, like you say, these are the ones that are coming in. What are we're doing with the people that are already in there, that are already ranked?
Right.
That's a whole different story. It just needs to be a very firm and but like you said, equitable, due process system. And sometimes that happens depending on that command, and sometimes it doesn't. A lot of it's retaliatory.
And so I would add to this, even the way that, like, piggybacking off of what you were saying and how we're broken down mentally, physically and mentally, they want to tear you down and build you back up to think in a
Mhm.
manner that, is conducive for the success of this completion of soldier training, and also, not to be a conscientious objector, all of these other things. So I think about small things that have taken place that have stayed with me that I feel like may play maybe a small portion of things. Um, Weapons training, M16. We go through the initial dry fire process. Put the penny at the on the muzzle brake
Mhm.
and balance it, and then, pull the trigger, or yeah, pull the trigger and things of that nature. So um, we go through that, but there was a portion in this dry fire exercise where they start to psychologically, I guess, change, at least plant the seed as far as changing what you're um, almost separating you from your emotions,
Mhm.
because the scenario was given. There's a hostage situation, it's a terrorist. We had a building, we got the building surrounded. You're on the roof across the street from the building. You're looking down your sights, you're ready to go. The terrorist is now coming out with the hostage. Um, and terrorist comes out back first, is backing up with the hostage and turns around. You look and it's your mother. What do you feel?
Mhm. Oh,
The
wow.
answer, the answer to that is recoil.
Mm. Okay.
So I feel like in that, and I don't know how wide this was my basic training. Oh, it was an all male training post. This was like, so no, you feel um, recoil. That means you pretty much check. You don't feel anything. You
Yeah.
have your job is before anything. So if this are the way that you're being conditioned in basic training, how would that not have residual effects over to anything? Because if you're telling me that I'm not supposed to feel anything with shooting my mother,
Mhm.
and I feel like the average person's, relationship with their mother is generally, well, average, even if they have a bad relationship as far as men are concerned. I feel like more often than not,
Mhm.
men love their mothers very dearly.
Right.
So um, that's why I feel like, especially I feel like black men, at least the ones that I know. Um, but you're telling them that what they feel, you feel nothing. Your emotions can't get in the way. You can't even think. You have to feel the recoil, which means, which indicates that
Mhm.
you saw this person either process who this person was, who this terrorist is
Mhm.
and or was, and you made the conscious decision to just pull the trigger and end the life of this terrorist because now there's no longer your mother. Eat while simultaneously dealing with the fact that you're killing the idea of even killing your mom.
Mhm.
So if my mother, the one that brought me into this world, you're planting the seed to where I could take her out.
Nobody else.
What other woman is going to hold any candle close to my mother?
Wow. Right.
So I
Right.
feel like there are these different little nuggets, because
Yeah.
again, the function of the military is to create weapons.
Mhm.
Is a weapon, is defense weapon and offense weapon.
Mhm.
Um, Everything else is kind of collateral damage.
And
So
that's
their priority,
this the praise of that is it
yeah,
is collateral damage. I hear that so much. People, and I mean, raped over, it's just collateral damage. It is what it is.
it comes with the territory, which is
Yes.
extremely unfortunate.
Right.
So I don't know how much briefing or how many trainings, because I mean, you think about the briefings or the debriefings that are had. I feel like I went through a bunch of demobilization stations, leaving Iraq or leaving the country to come back to the states, um, and having been conditioned in, I guess, within the military fashion for 8-9 years. Then I'm now about to ETS. I'm getting out, and now I'm being reinjected into, civilian world, which they don't necessarily encourage you to go back to be a civilian in the first place. They definitely like, oh, you might as well. Oh, how many? You got 8? You might as well stay for 10. Oh, you got 10? You might as well get your 20. You got 20? I'm like, nah, man, y'all gonna might as well me to the grave. I'm not fooling with y'all.
Right. Right.
But there aren't conversations, you know what I mean? You don't really have it. It's not an easy transition, or it wasn't an easy transition from a soldier to a civilian. So it's
Yeah.
like, well, now, so, but we have those debriefings and things of that nature, but it's still not, you, there were things that they said were in place. Oh, if you need to talk to somebody, but and you feel like you have PTSD, call these numbers. But
Mhm.
essentially, like, yeah, don't talk to your family because they're not going to understand, and they
Yeah.
won't.
Right.
Um, Not unless they've been in the environment themselves, and then they can, you can talk to them a little bit about it, but maybe not so much because they weren't there for that specific event that may have caused that trauma.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's only just now that I'm started, like this year, I started going to uh seeing a therapist for stuff that I was dealing with that I didn't deal with for a while. But it's like when you're waking up in the middle of the night in a place that you've
Yeah.
been living in and you don't know where you are, you know what I mean? Then there's
Mm.
there's something happening. But
Yeah.
there was not no any real. I saw videos as far as the demobilization stations. Oh,
Mhm.
these things happen and you can call this VA number or whatever. But you know what I mean? Even I feel like that's kind of a pacification. Oh, we have something. And I wouldn't want this whole premise of, or this conversation of sexual assault for a program to be created within the military or even outside and be a pacification. Oh, now we have programs
Mhm.
like
As-
many other corporate entities have.
Mhm.
Oh, we've got sensitivity training. Oh, we've got
Yeah.
what's the other? There's another one I can't think of the name of right now. You have it, but what is it actually doing? You're
Mhm.
only meeting a status quo in order to say that you're doing this. Like I feel like any of these other things, these companies that are now on board, the whole Black Lives Matter, all of
Yeah.
that, you're doing this because it's not politically motivated, it's financially motivated. You don't want it to affect your bottom line. So we'll do this just to make sure that we still have the customers that we so that we don't lose any money because we
Mhm.
don't really care about
Right.
the actual injustices going on.
Right. Right.
um,
That's the bottom
it's,
line.
and so I think that's where a lot of these programs end up getting birthed. And while it's needed, I don't think that it's a long road. Not to say that it's not worth the effort, but I'm just thinking like it's a long road because as much as men have to not rape, I feel like women also have to not perpetuate those same systems. You know what I mean? Because there are many cases where that is what's happening.
Mhm.
You're assimilating or adapting, to the environment to where you think, oh, this is just what men do. Oh, this is just what women do. And we go in there with these, ideologies that assist in the creation of the blurred lines
Yeah.
and the uncertainty and not where people are not talking about clear cut consent. Or if
Mhm.
you decided you changed your mind because you hurt your feelings was hurt,
Mhm.
you didn't like what was happening or whatever. I mean, while it's not necessarily always the case, but we got the whole Brian Banks case that happened.
Yeah.
Um, this man went to prison, whole life was altered because of the way that he handled a situation. Her feelings got hurt, and now he's turned into a rapist. And that's not what happened at all. He didn't touch you, not like that.
Yeah.
So also being in situations like that where, or having situations where, oh, this female soldier liked this guy. He didn't really like her. He liked her friend. You wanted to kiss him or you kissed him, but he realized that the friend is who he liked more, and now you're upset, and now you come out and, oh, he did this and X, Y, and Z to me. I'll put him in positions. I've seen setups like that happen too. I've
Mhm.
seen a couple guys dodge those setups. And I'm just like, it's again, it's a lot of immature adults, new adults coming into
Mhm.
this autonomous environment with preconceived notions, and they don't know how to make or don't have very much practice in making adult decisions in a social setting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've had buffers before, but Yeah.
That's good. I'm gonna try to wrap this up. Let me see. We kind of went over the training. That is kind of what, did you have anything that you want to sum this up as? Because I kind of went over all my questions. Like, did you have anything that you want to add or um, any statements you want to make? Because again, I want to, we can talk all day, but I really want there to be some type of tangible change. And I don't know exactly how to get there. And until I do, I'm going to keep on talking and keep on making notes and keep on pressing until I do. So, any thoughts?
I think some contingencies could be put in place as
Okay.
far as um, maybe certain responsibilities, especially in a garrison environment, certain responsibilities being placed on these NCOs
Mhm.
within these sections, whether they be, I guess the battle buddies or whether they be the higher ups, of knowing who your soldiers are, or at least paying more attention and maybe being more involved to where you may have the open door to where this female soldier can come in and confidently say to you, hey, these things are happening. I don't like these things the way that this soldier is doing them. I don't feel comfortable, so on and it can be addressed. And if it ends up being a misunderstanding, or how she still just doesn't feel safe, well, then that soldier can be moved to another unit or whatever, something that isn't necessarily damaging career wise. And this is all contingent upon the severity of whatever the situation.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't like this. Um, I've already asked him to stop. I need you to talk to this person.
Yeah.
And then that NCO or that section chief, section sergeant, whatever, goes to that soldier and addresses it early. So we don't have the Guillermo, or I forget, how do you say her name from Fort Hood?
Um, I, I'm just gonna go with Vanessa because I keep missing
Okay,
her
so
last name too.
yeah, so we don't have those issues.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that I'm willing to bet and almost believe that there were some indications prior to her going missing. And I don't know the totality or all the details of that story. But
Yeah.
I feel like having those people in place to where it may not necessarily be as severe as an EO complaint, because it doesn't always start out just with a major discrepancy. It's like, this person kind of makes me uncomfortable, so I'm going to do some different things. Hey, this is what I've told this person. They're doing this. I don't like this. I
Mhm.
don't think it's necessarily. I'm not too alarmed, but I want to give you, I guess,
Mhm.
kind of the heads up. Or can you go talk to this person, because whatever I've said is not, being listened to, being recognized, or what have you. Um, and I feel like having some of these sub infrastructures in place will assist in the larger infrastructure being implemented and I guess created and implemented. But if we wait for just this one large program to come in and
Yeah.
now to start doing everything, well, having those smaller infrastructures in place, and I feel like will allow the transition into that, I guess, much more palatable, much more easier. Um, and I feel like just being able to protect the soldiers, but also certain soldiers having to take their their lives into, being situationally aware in your personal life, in
Yeah.
your off duty life. What am I doing? Who am
Right.
I around? How do I feel about this? I don't really want to go. I'm being made, I'm pressured into. No, I don't like it. It feels like pressure. I don't
Mhm.
want to do it. It doesn't
Right.
feel like good pressure. Um, I'm not, and having to set, particular boundaries. Again, there are many cases where there's absolutely zero control over the outcome because, the person was just that determined. And I don't know what else to do, I guess, what to necessarily do about that. Unfortunately, things like that are going to happen. And I wish they wouldn't.
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, the part I'm playing in it is, I became a firearms instructor. So I'm like, yeah, for women, yes, to get you a weapon, get you a legal weapon and carry. and be comfortable with that. So you have at least another fighting chance to keep yourself, alive and out of these situations. But um, I think that would having those smaller infrastructures ultimately would help in the larger one being created, and it with it not being so new, but also having these infrastructures in place in the training um, arenas. I went to an all male training post basic training, so sexual harassment or raping, or women weren't around. The
Mhm.
DFAC lady, maybe, what I'm saying, going to the chow hall, but it wasn't. So I mean, I'm not. That wasn't an issue. AIT was a little bit different. And speaking of AIT, here's why I say that the women assimilate to a culture. I remember AIT Fort Gordon, 2003. Um, I was there prior to the next cycle of classes coming through, so I was already in Fort Gordon, probably about a month and a half before my class cycle was going to start. When it
Mhm.
started, there was a female soldier that was assigned to come get me from, I think, the first sergeant's office, uh, and take me back to the barracks. And I remember seeing her. I'll just give her last name. It was Private Torres. I thought that she was very attractive. The reason to me why that was significant is because as we're walking back, maybe a 5 minute walk from maybe 5 10 minute walk back to the barracks, we have a conversation. She asked me where I'm from and so on and so forth. When she asked me one very distinct question that I remember clearly, because here we're having this conversation. Well, she asked me if I knew what AIT stood for. And so I'm like, yes, it's advanced individual training. And she says, no, that's not what it stands. So I'm confused. I'm 19-year-old. I don't know. What do you mean? It's not advanced individual training. I thought I'm trying to work it out in my mind. And she looks at me like we stopped and she looks at me and she said, no, AIT stands for ass is temporary. Don't get too attached to no woman around here. So me, you know what I mean? I was definitely the 19-year-old I was with a very, loving, romantic. I'm write poetry and all different type of, hopeless romantic type ideologies, I mean, that I had. So I wasn't on the like hit it and quit it type, that wasn't the vibe. I wasn't on that vibe. But they have this woman that or my peer, but also this woman that I found extremely attractive. I'm like, yeah, because if you look good in uniform, I know you fine in real life. So,
Right.
fact. So, I'm like, oh, but I'm like, I got this level, this caliber of woman, at mean, at least physically telling me this, that you're telling me that ass
Right.
is temporary. So what am I walking into?
Right.
And I
Right.
hadn't had that, I didn't have that conversation with the other guys that I was there with. I'm like,
Right.
my first day there. So this is if I mentioned these ideologies or the system being perpetuated by women, it's things like that that I think about. You know what I mean? Hell, even I got my nickname at the time because I was super poetry writer. I got my nickname was Lover Boy because I was always writing poems, and then they always see me with different female soldiers. Not in any compromising situations. Let me add that. My drill sergeants or the drill instructors always, oh, LP, Lover Boy. Oh yeah, you a poet and didn't know it, and all this other type of stuff. So I'm looking at these women kind of also push this forward. And I'm like thinking about it in retrospect, are you pushing it forward because this is what you've assimilated to, this is what you've already believed, or this is the game that you feel like you have to play in order to move forward?
Mm.
And in any of those situations, it's not a good look. Um, so I think AIT is definitely a very good place to, I mean, in basic training, the co-ed, place like Fort Jackson and, things like that.
I think I don't know. I had to think about that too because I was wondering what's the best place, and I guess the earlier the better. But when I was in basic training, it was like no fraternization. So like maybe that is the best place. But we weren't. For me, we weren't even trying to look at each other. I literally got to basic, and there's this guy that I grew up with. Literally, we went to the same church. We known each other from the womb. I didn't know he was going. We just ended up in Fort Jackson, and I'm like, Triple T, like, you here too? Like, I wanted to talk, but I was so scared of fraternization that I didn't even talk to. We were just looking like, yeah. So I guess maybe when that, I don't know if that's the same type of, because I came in 98, and that's been so long ago. I don't know if they still instill that in you then. And
I mean, they say it, but it's so many soldiers that turn up pregnant from Fort Jackson is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or what a co-ed training post. It's so many soldiers that I felt like have gotten pregnant while I was in AIT. That's another place. But I'm like, but that was also places where they were, fraternization was happening because it was senior NCOs.
Yeah, we had that in AIT.
Yeah, messing with privates. Like,
yeah.
So
yeah, we had that in AIT. I think it was a senior drill. When I first got there, had to be moved out of my company, which was Alpha Company, somewhere else because he got one of the soldiers pregnant.
And that's it. And then they just moved them. So it depended on where you are and who it is you know and how you can get it worked around. It may not damage your military. It's things, and it's not just exclusive to anything as far as sexual assault, because there are a lot of drug things that have occurred to where people don't get, you might get a slap on the wrist, break it down, whatever the case is. Oh, this is General so-and-so, or this is Command Sergeant Major so-and-so. So we can't treat them. We're just not going to log this in the way that we would do. The types of things. So I think basic training probably. I would have said AIT because you're a little bit more, I guess, relaxed.
Yeah, you a little bit more freedom too there. So it's like get you before you go off base on them passes.
Right.
You think you grown when you get a pass now.
Oh, what? Don't get the overnight pass. What?
Right.
5+. I'm in phase 5+. Oh, it's over with. I got my civvies and I'm out the whole weekend. I ain't got no recall formation. Oh, we good.
You can't tell me nothing. I'm wrong. So funny, but it's so true. Well, I don't want to keep, this was amazing. I'm going to try to do a woman in a guy panel discussion. But before we go, give me your information, where you're at for your business. We'll give everybody else information if they can reach you, if they want. Would you say you do?
A firearms instructor. Yeah, okay. I'm a firearms instructor. So, my name is Anthony Alston. You also may see me as Free for Real, and that's PHAREAL. Where you can find me is my website is Find the FACS. So it's Find the Facts at gmail.com. Findthefacts.com is where the website is. And FACS is my company, Forward Assist Combat Society. The acronym FACS. And you can also find me on Instagram under the same title, Forward Assist Combat Society. And I'm trying to think if there anywhere else, but for right now, those are the ways that I can be contacted. And if you're looking for firearms instruction, if we are friends on this wonderful platform called Facebook or Instagram or wherever, you can definitely instant message me, private message me, direct message, or send me an email, and we can get some things going. I got another thing coming up where I'm about to get my NRA instructor's license. So, yeah, I love guns, and so that's where you can find me. And
what states are you at? Because I don't know where's your business out of. What state?
Well, my business is a Georgia created business, so it is established in Georgia. I am currently in California, and for the next month or so, I'll be between Arizona, California. But I will, after getting this next license, I'll be able to kind of teach in North Carolina, Texas, Arizona, possibly California, Georgia, and maybe Alabama, fewer surrounding states. So I'm just kind of expanding those regions now.
Okay. Don't be surprised if I reach out for some ladies that want some training.
Oh, absolutely, man. Please do, because I'm putting together something soon to where when I do show up back in Georgia, end up taking probably like maybe like a party bus, but there are some black owned uh, gun shops that I wanted to go to. There's one that's in Flowery Branch. It's definitely a ways away from central Atlanta or the inside the perimeter. But as far as being patronizing that brother's business and kind of showing these same aspects in different lights from our perspective, I felt like it's important. So definitely have like the ladies trip. We might have 5 hours where we go to the gun range, go to the gun store, you get to see these things, go to the range, shoot, feel a little bit more comfortable with your weapon. And you don't have to drive. We'll charter you back down to downtown Atlanta, and then you can go on about your
You gotta come to
the rest of
Texas.
the evening.
I'm in Texas now. You gotta
Oh,
come.
I will too. Well, yeah, I
Okay.
gotta be back through Texas anyway, so I'm gonna do that too. Yeah.
Okay. Let me know. Seriously. I
So
so Cynthia, seriously, I appreciate this. We'll be in touch soon. And for everybody out there, thank you for joining. Again, you can get in touch with Anthony at findthefacts.com. Is that correct?
yeah, find the facts.
Okay. And yes, stay tuned. We'll continue this conversation and finding out ways that we can actually activate, like I said, create tangible change. So thank you for joining, and we will talk. See
All
ya.
right.